Hey everyone, welcome to Heaving Bosoms, the podcast where two best friends recap romance novels while swooning, being the most, and reveling in a vast pond of mutual respect. Sometimes this is the show where two best friends materialize before your very ears. I'm not gonna say that's what happened here, but I'm also not gonna say it. All jokes aside, it was a delight to chat with Julia Quinn about her newest and super unique release, the graphic novel her late sister and she created. Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron is special on so many levels. And you get a front row seat. Here we go.
Oh, and you know what? Sorry, I'm putting you on Do Not Disturb because if I don't, my mother will FaceTime for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it doesn't happen for 3 hours. And then the moment I get on the phone, my toddler needs something. And I'm just like, are you kidding me right now? All right. So thank you for coming. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to tell you that this was really, really exciting for me because my husband owns a comic shop. And so we read a lot of comics, we read a lot of graphic novels, and I've always said, like, we need more true romance graphic novels, you know, instead of just like subplots being romantic. So this was super exciting for me.
I don't know if this counts as a true romance graphic novel, but it might be one of the closest things we have.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are talking pigeons.
You know what? Things happen in fantastical ways.
That's true. But, you know, the pigeons don't talk to the people and vice versa. So, you know,
that's true.
But still, we definitely go into the absurd with this one.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, and so you wrote this because we should let listener know. Mm-hmm. You wrote this because it is mentioned in the Bridgerton series. It's like the meta text that they all read.
Yes. And actually it goes beyond that. So this book, Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron, was introduced in the 7th book in the Bridgerton series, which is called It's in His Kiss. It's about Hyacinth, who's the youngest Bridgerton. And in this book, Hyacinth visits Lady Danbury every Tuesday and reads to her. And this is where I need to sort of make sure people understand. Lady Danbury in the books is a little bit older, I think, than Lady Danbury in the show. Yeah. So in the books, her eyes are failing. And so that's why Hyacinth goes and reads to her. And she's reading to her from this book called Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron. And it's this completely over-the-top Gothic novel. Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. You know, it just the type, you know, I just took everything about Gothic novels and made it like bigger and crazier. You know,
it's so funny. It's so good.
The heroine breaks both her legs. She's like hanging from a cliff. She's hanging, you know, she gets thrown out a window. I think she gets captured by pirates. I mean, it's just anything that could happen. You know, she almost dies all the time. And of course, it's like, you know, the brooding hero and that sort of thing. And I had so much fun with it. You know, you've got Hyacinth reading it, being like, this is ridiculous. And like at one point, I think she's even like, I don't think the author is using this word correctly. And Lady Danbury going, shut up, keep reading, because she loves it.
Yeah.
And it was just really, really fun. So I brought it back in another book. I think the next one I brought it back in is What Happens in London.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is not a Bridgerton book. Yeah. And in that one, the hero gives the book to the heroine as a present and says, everybody's reading this. So, you know, here you go. And she starts reading it. She's like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever read. It's awful. And she keeps reading it. She's like, do you understand what like drivel you gave me? But the hero's cousin ends up picking it up and does like this dramatic reading from it, which turns into this really farcical scene, which I enjoyed, and so you've got the hero and heroine going like, what is going on? Why does everybody like this? Because everybody else is like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it just then goes on, and it ended up in several more books, including one where we find out who the author is, because it's an anonymous author. And then finally, after I think appearing in 4 or 5 books, readers started asking me to write it. And they said, I would totally read it. And I said, oh no, you wouldn't. It would be terrible. This would be terrible.
And they're all like, we want it to be terrible.
Yeah, well, you know, what I've been putting in the books would be these paragraphs of really bad writing.
Totally.
Like take whatever you think of as purple prose and just like make it even more purple, add chartreuse, add anything to it. And that's what this was. I said, this would not be a pleasant reading experience. I promise you. And I know it wouldn't be a pleasant writing experience. But at some point, it occurred to me that it would make a really wonderful graphic novel. And my sister was a cartoonist and an illustrator and, was looking for a way to kind of expand beyond web comics, which is what she was doing. And I suggested this.
Oh, totally.
And so this was a long process. I think I looked up recently that we started talking about it in 2016. It was a very long process to get it sort of moving, to figure out what to do, to sell it, all these things, because it was just so out of the ordinary for everything. So what you have here is, obviously the Bridgertons, my other characters, are not reading a graphic novel, but we sort of took that idea and ran with it.
Yeah, absolutely. You modernized it. And I think that it's so clever because you're right. I think that without the illustrations, it would be kind of a miserable reading experience and definitely a miserable writing experience, right?
Yeah.
But you took something that could have been like hilariously trashy and you turned it into like a literal work of art. in the funny thing is,
I did a thing yesterday for Amazon Live, and there's a section where you're supposed to read from your book. And I was like, I'm not reading from the graphic novel. It's like, and I was just like, all right, we'll take out that section. I was like, no.
Yeah, no, it would be like all of a sudden we're at picture time at the library. Like it's really tough to do that on camera.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like, please don't, this is a podcast. That'd be even worse. What am I supposed to describe? So now we've got a picture of her with her eyes big. Yeah, this is a visual medium. And my reading it is not going to do it justice.
No, certainly. And I can attest to that because both of my children are very small. And so we read a lot of graphic novels to them. And so not only do I have to read them, but then we have to talk about every picture and be like, he's coming from this direction and she's, doing this. Oh my gosh. And it can get tedious. So you came up with this concept in your dad's backyard. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, wow. You have been doing your homework. I think yes. In my dad's backyard.
Listen, when you're about to talk to Julia Quinn, you prep yourself.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
I don't know about that. Like I'm just over here emptying my dishwasher and doing my laundry, not feeling terribly special. So thank you.
No, I hear that. Oh, hey, HBs. I don't know if you've heard, but we have a Patreon. For as little as $5 a month, you get over 150 bonus episodes, most of which include Aaron, videos of regular episodes, author hangouts, and so much more. Do you want to hear Aaron and I recap every single episode of Crash Landing on You? What about a little film called Psycho Stripper? Do you want more recaps of ridiculous Thanksgiving and other holiday books and movies? And how do you feel about Naima Simone and I recapping amazing reality TV? All of that and more is on the Patreon. There's so much content at your fingertips as soon as you sign up. Seriously, hours and hours. Anyway, it's patreon.com/Heaving Bosoms Podcast if you want to check it out. And of course, that link is in the show notes. Keep being a badass. Oh, random question.
Sure.
Did Violet come to RWA in New York with you? Or was that someone else? Was that Emily?
I don't think that was her. I had three sisters.
Yeah.
This may be the right time to mention that
Sure.
Violet was killed last summer by a drunk driver in a crash that also took the life of our father and her dog. She was very, very close to her dog.
Yeah.
And her husband died 5 months later of injuries sustained in that crash. My stepmother did survive the crash, but it's been a difficult road.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? Because I don't know. I lost my dad when I was 19. I told you earlier. And it's one of those things where there's a piece of me that's that's just in awe of the timing of this, just because it feels like you have this thing that you can look at and this tangible object that's like, my sister and I put all of our souls together and we made this incredible thing. And that's beautiful.
It really is. And I think that's why I'm able to talk to people about this and do interviews like this. And people have been very, very kind, in press and in the PR department at my publishing house, being very careful and saying, what are you able to do? What are you able to talk about?
Right.
And I kind of surprised myself. And I was like, you know what? No, I enjoy speaking about this.
Yeah. I
think because it is what you said, it's this tangible thing I can look to and feel my sister's presence. I had to go to her condo and go through her things. And I realized there was almost nothing there that I wanted. We didn't have many shared objects. She was quite a bit younger than I was. She was my half sister. We grew up in different households. So there just weren't we didn't have very many shared memories that revolved around things.
Sure. Yeah.
And what I really wanted was just her art, because that's who she was. And that's what, and then the art that I wanted was the art that I was closest to her with, which was this. And so it really is an incredible gift to me and a tribute to her. And so my other two sisters, there were four of us. I also have a half brother, were very, very instrumental in helping me get this through the publishing process, because Violet had finished illustrating it. So we were done, but there were, computer issues, because, she does the work on the computer.
Oh, right.
And she was in the process of converting. There was some sort of file conversion thing that was complicated because, she had done web comics and this was going to be printed, and I didn't. So I have one sister who runs a web design company. So she did an incredible amount of work getting these files converted. My other sister's a computer expert. She had to get into Violet's computer, which is password protected. So there's really quite a lot that had to be done. So this turned out to be a huge family affair. And in the back of the book, I'm opening the book like anybody can actually see.
Yeah, I know.
There's a list of acknowledgements, and I don't know that I rarely do acknowledgements in books. It's just not my thing. But this one definitely needed it, because there were so many people who were critical in getting this book out. I don't know, we're getting a little bit off topic here, but
no, this is the topic.
This is the topic. Okay.
This is a family affair. That's beautiful. Oh my gosh.
But to answer your original question, it was probably one of my other sisters in New York. My older sister designs websites. And because she did my website, that led to a lot of other author websites. And so she would frequently come to RWA conferences. Okay. And it was funny, so she runs, I feel like I have to do a little advertisement, Wax Design. She does my website. She does Sylvia Day. She does Eloisa James. She does just tons of them. And they're very, very good. But we would go to these conferences together, and she'd be so much busier than I'm going to have to eat. I'm going to have some fun. I'll do a book signing, I guess. And she's just meeting client after client. So that's probably who you saw. Yeah.
Well, it was a wonderful experience. I think it's the only time that we have met in person, and we were in an elevator, and there was no industry reason whatsoever that either of you should give me the time of day. You know what I mean? And I don't say that in a disparaging way. I just say that because people are busy, and I was there mostly as a guest, and she was just so warm and, kind, and, we connected. It was just really lovely. Anyway.
And these are the crazy elevators that you punch in your number outside.
Yes.
Okay. I don't really know how to explain this to anyone else, but just it's like fate determines who's going to be in your elevator.
It's really true.
It's really true. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in your dad's backyard, and you're like, we should team up and we could make this into a graphic novel. And then you said it was a while to get it off the ground. Is that were you in charge of the story completely, or did you bounce off of each other for that?
That she did much more of that. I mean, I kind of went through and I was like, okay, well, I have to figure out what's canon. What have I already said? I mean, I don't know. So seriously, I'm like, what's in my books? So I had to figure out, where have I mentioned it? Because, the books that I knew for sure, okay, it's in here in a big way, but I thought, I'm the type of person who likes to drop Easter eggs. So I could have mentioned it somewhere else. So
absolutely.
First way to go through, find everything that was in canon. And then I kind of handed it over to her because, this was going to be really the only thing she was doing. I mean, aside from some webcomic stuff, whereas I had other stuff I had to do. So, it says written by Julia Quinn, illustrated by Violet Charles, but she did a lot of the writing, probably more than half, to be honest with you.
That's cool.
Oh yeah. I mean, and I would go in there and be like, no, this, and change things up and whatever, and bouncing. And I think, she was often very frustrated because, this was so important to her and I'd be doing something else. And she'd be like, I need answers. So eventually, we got a plot down.
Yeah.
And that was mostly her, and I would go in and say, well, we need, I would be sort of the secondary person. And then once we got the main idea for the plot, she storyboarded it.
Yeah.
Kind of figured out, if you're going to write a graphic novel, I think you have to figure out what's going on every page.
Well, and that's, I mean, it makes sense to me that it was such a collaborative experience process. And that's why I asked, just because I feel like there's part of that artist's brain. It's like, no, we really need her to fall out of a tree because I see in my head what her face is going to look like as she falls out of the tree, and that's really neat.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there was some of that. And then there were other things like, she would kind of storyboard it. And I would say, well, instead of having like 5 panels on this page, we have 6, so we could separate the words this way, because I'm thinking about the way the rhythm of the words work, when I'm writing, for example, where within dialogue, where I put commas or where, if I put sort of the he said in the middle of a statement, it's for timing. If I say, darling, he said, we're going to the store, to me, that's very different than saying, darling, we're going to the store, he said.
Oh, totally.
So I'm looking at the panels that way, so I'd be doing something and be like, what do we do this? And she goes, no, now there are too many words in this panel and they won't fit. And so, because she's thinking about it visual. So that took a while, because also she really wanted to get the storyboard down before she started drawing in earnest, which makes sense because, then you're going to have, there were some panels that she had to redraw after really almost finishing it, and she was highly irritated when that happened. I totally get it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So when you were drafting this, was there anything that was loosely inspired from real events?
We do not know anyone who was pecked to death by pigeons.
Oh, thank goodness.
There are a few characters who look a little bit like people we know. The grandfather actually looks a little like our dad in some things. My uncle is in here somewhere. Yeah, so there are a few things in here, and then there are a few little inside jokes, like family jokes, which nobody else would ever get. And I don't even just, funny things that have been said in our family that we sort of worked in, which I couldn't even try to explain it to you because
absolutely. But it's there.
Yeah, there are a few things that are inside family jokes. And what's fun is that one of my sisters was reading this recently, and, she goes, oh my gosh, that's Violet's line. Oh, you wrote that one. And, she could tell some of them, and she wasn't always right, but for a lot of them, she goes, this was definitely her. And I said, yep. I'm like, this one was me. Like one of the ones I was really proud. Well, there's a section where they're describing Beatrice, what's her name? Like Honey Snow or something. I can't remember her tragic death. And it was just really funny because we were just like, let's have, one of those deaths where things keep happening to her.
Yes.
I will actually read from it,
please.
Just mad. She attacked Pomfret. Damien jumped in to protect him. She fell into the fire, was impaled on a poker. This was all Violet so far. And she ran out to the storm and was struck by lightning. I feel like you've seen these things in Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner cartoons.
Totally.
They keep dying over and over again. She burned up from the inside out, and all that was left was the green cloak Damon gave her. So that was all Violet. And then I was like, which was trampled by passing sheep. That was me. And many times would be sort of like, let's figure out how absurd we can get it, because of course, if all that's left of her is the green cloak, then the sheep fly. And I remember that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And did her sense of humor tend toward the absurd?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, really?
Oh, yes.
That's really fun.
She was a deeply weird person. I say that with great affection. And we're all very weird. Like she was a deeply weird person in a very weird family. How about that?
I love that. As a fellow weird, I love that. Hey, HBs. I started an Etsy store. Did you know? Right now, it's full of all the St. Vincent items you need because St. Vincent is thoughtful and cozy all year round. We've got a book sleeve to keep your books, planners, e-readers, or really anything else safe when you're on the go. The inside is fuzzy, and they feel so incredibly lush in your hands. I went round and round with the manufacturers to make sure I had just the right thickness. Those feature art of St. Vincent and Evie during their carriage adventure that was painted by the amazing Mayara Faraz on one side, and then I created a St. Vincent Would Always wreath on the other side that has a bunch of little Easter egg items in it. There's a St. Vincent Would Always warm brick enamel pin. It's like, if you know, you know. I designed a special edition Marriage of Convenience candle that is specific to Devil in Winter, with the help of HB Jen at Post Pouring Company. It combines dark amber for St. Vincent and rosewood for Evie, and it smells so delicious. It's hard to even wrap my brain around. So if you want to treat yourself or be the St. Vincent you want to see in the world by getting a care package for a friend, check out our Etsy store. The link is in the show notes. All right, so I love that her art really, really does capture the absurdity of the story. And after hearing all of that, it makes a lot of sense. But if you can, because the book is already out, which is really exciting, you can order it now. And if you order it from a Seattle bookshop, which one?
University Bookstore.
Yes. Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes. So I have long worked with University Bookstore, which is my local independent bookstore. So to sell autographed books around the world, for people who can't come to book signings. And, these days we're not really having many book signings.
Right.
And in addition to doing that, I've always offered, you get a bookmark, you get a little fridge magnet, but this particular book, we made a set of 6 fridge magnets featuring some of the famous pigeons, and they're super, super cute. You can actually line them up and they make one big picture, or you can separate them.
It's so fun.
Go on my website, there's a page, it's juliaquinn.com/or autographed. And that gives you all the information about how to order autographed books. You can order any of my books autographed, but it also shows you a picture of the magnets. And right now, at least, this is the only place you can get these magnets.
Yeah.
Is by ordering this autograph from University Bookstore. Eventually we may sell them. I don't know. But right now they're just a gift with purchase.
Yeah.
And that's been really fun because I really love supporting independent bookstores.
Right.
And they've already got 500 orders for this, which is,
I love it.
Yeah, they were surprised.
Oh,
I was surprised. I was surprised too. So I was over there signing it just yesterday, and I signed with a glittery pen. I don't usually use a glittery pen, or sparkly pen.
What pizzazz! You're
like
offering.
This deserves a sparkly pen.
Absolutely, the whole thing is pizzazz. Listener, the magnets are so cute. There's even a little baby called, what's it called?
Esmeralda.
Esmeralda.
I named Esmeralda. Esmeralda's mother is Rebecca. Violet named that one. There's also Jean-Claude, Clawd, and Wingston.
Oh, Wingston. Yeah, he's grumpy.
And then Sylvia Van Nest. And then there's also Clarence, because, and Gerald, because I just felt like, I don't even remember where Clarence came from, but I felt like a pigeon ought to be named Gerald.
I love it. Yeah.
You've got all these fun pun names, and then Gerald.
Okay. So when they order from the bookstore to get the autograph and get the magnets, can you give Bridgerton novel fans a taste of the inside jokes that y'all wrote into this book? Is there one or two you can think of?
I mean, in inside jokes from our life, or from Bridgerton, or
no, from the novels that the book was originally in. Because I don't think that in the books the mom gets pecked to death, but that doesn't happen in here, right?
In the novel?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't get to that part yet. Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. And as a matter of fact, in the books, I didn't actually write that scene. It's just people, people.
They just reference it.
They just reference it all the time as, people trying to explain how ridiculous the book is. They're just like, her mother gets pecked to death by pigeons. As if to say, what could possibly indicate a worse book? Mm-hmm. And so when we actually started this, I said to Violet, I said, I think we have to actually do the pigeon scene.
Totally.
Then we had to figure out, well, how do you do the pigeon scene? And how do you make the pigeons still sympathetic? Because,
definitely.
I don't want evil pigeons. I want misguided pigeons. Right? I'm not really giving anything away, but the pigeons end up eating bad gooseberries and they kind of trip out.
And they go a little bananas. They end up
like hallucinating, except for Sylvia Van Nest, who, she doesn't do anything because she said, that sugar makes her feathers fall out. So I guess she's paleo. She doesn't eat sugar. So you've got like the one pigeon who's like looking at this whole thing going like, what is going on with the rest of you?
The one sane pigeon. Oh my God.
One sane pigeon. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Well, and the baby does not get drugged out on gooseberries.
Thank goodness. Yeah.
Only adult pigeons. No pigeons were harmed in the making of the book. Yeah.
That's super fun. Yeah. This thing is gorgeous. One of my like ridiculous, like just the art is so fun. One of my favorite scenes, and it's probably unlikely for other people, but it just like stuck in my brain. I dreamt about it last night, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Is when she's telling him like, why she, what? Oh, page 43.
Okay.
Where she's like, I was beset by pirate women. And he says, the piratess highway women were beekeepers, were they? And she's like, yeah. And then he goes, okay, how are you unharmed if you were shot by cannons? And then we get to see like her thought process. I'll show listener for the video, but it's like, she's like, oh, I dodged it. Unlikely. Oh, that's, I spread my legs and jumped over it. That's indecent.
Yeah.
And it's so cute.
Yeah, it's had
so cute.
That was Thought Bubble, Priscilla.
Yeah.
A little bit different. And with the two main characters we see in Thought Bubbles every now and then, which is kind of fun whenever they're kind of thinking about each other.
Yeah, it's really fun.
I like the piratess beekeepers.
Yeah. What is it about bees that it just elevates the comedy?
I don't know. I've got a lot going with bees these days. So.
All right, perfect. So it came out on May 10th.
Mm-hmm.
They can get these super adorable magnets if they order through University Books in Washington. And I'll link that in the show notes.
Thank you. And they ship everywhere. Although if you're out of the United States, it does get a little pricey.
It probably gets a little hairy.
Shipping,
yeah,
it does.
Yeah.
But which is part of the reason why eventually, I'll probably offer the magnets separately, if only because, I had to order more because I didn't expect such a response. So I was like, all right, I'm just getting, I think I've ordered like 1,000 each. So I definitely will not need to use all the magnets up. And so at some point I'm going to need to, unload the magnets. So
yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, Miss Butterworth and the Mad Baron, everyone, you need a copy. You need to see this in real life.
And I think actually like kids can read it too.
Oh yeah. Oh,
that's the fun thing.
I have been reading it to my kids. That's why I haven't gotten to the end yet.
Although I will say, there is some violence and gore. And I feel like I need to say that because, so often I get peeved that people get horrified by sex and things and not the violence. And so I'm like, okay, well, gosh, I need to be honest too. But it's all like pigeon on man violence. It's not man on man.
It's true. Yeah, there's no animal abuse. It's great.
Yeah, the animals are fine. No animals are hurt. But it is, definitely a unrealistic sort of violence. So I think, for most children, it is fine. Although if your kid is really sensitive to things like that, you might want to take a look at it first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you're worried about the sex, that's not in there. There's one kiss, which then gets like covered by the propriety pigeon.
Oh.
You clearly haven't gotten to the propriety pigeon either.
I haven't. No, no, they would be so mad at me if I kept reading without them.
Yes, there's a propriety pigeon. And that was funny because we had trouble coming up with a name for it. For a while, it was the decency pigeon. And I was like, I don't like that. That sounds really
judgmental.
Yes, it was too judgy. And so we ended up, we like the propriety pigeon we liked.
That's really cute. Yeah.
Yeah. He has a little hat.
All right. So what's next for you? Do you have anything on the docket, or are you just going to relax for a minute?
Well, I have, I actually haven't been kind of actively writing for a while because I've had a lot of things to do as a result of the Netflix show and this. I do have something that I am getting started on soon, but I can't talk about it.
Totally.
It's a big secret. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, now everybody knows that they got to keep a lookout for whatever Julia Quinn's doing next. More info to come.
More info to come for sure.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. This was really fun.
This was fun. Sometimes when I do these things, I'm always like, interview. And then they turn out to be really fun.
Oh, yay. I'm glad.
Yes.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, you. Yes, listener, you. Are you loving the show? If so, please leave a rating and review in your podcast app. The 90 seconds you take to say something nice not only helps new people find the show, but it makes me super smile over at HBHQ. Also, I've had a few people ask, and the answer is yes. We are still doing the 5-star bribe. If you leave us a review with 5 stars, then we'll do whatever book you want. We're real deep into the list though, so it might be a while. Lilas! Okay, back to the show.